I am BJ Novak, and I play Ben Manalowitz in the film. I am also the director. Vengeance is about a journalist and aspiring podcaster who finds out that a girl he was just kind of hooking up with has died, and he is expected at the funeral. Out of guilt and embarrassment and empathy, he goes to the funeral, and when he bonds with the family, her brother expects him to enact vengeance on the killer. My character doesn't want to do that, but does want to make a podcast about why they want vengeance. And over the course of time, he both bonds with the family and gets a little caught up in that plot. The themes of the film are connection, misunderstandings, the comedy and awkwardness and warmth of those misunderstandings, and how we form family-style connections with people for all sorts of reasons in this era. At first, I wanted to tell a story about the misunderstandings in relationships where you can say 100%, LOL, miss you so much, and you don't know who is interpreting what in what way. And we can get both disconnected or too connected from those misunderstandings like that. So I thought, oh, the most extreme I could take that for a comedy is someone whose family thought that they should be at the funeral, you know, front and center, someone who is really just a hookup to the other person. I thought playing that out emotionally would be very funny and very interesting. Then I thought, okay, where would this character be out of his element? And I thought, well, you take a New Yorker to West Texas. The podcast idea, at first I thought he'd be a writer or a journalist. And then the more the podcast era started taking over our lives, I realized, well, that's actually a lot more intimate, because you're listening to people's voices and people's voices are in your head. And that would be a way to get even more intimate and make conversations rather than writing the way that my character gets to know these people. I think podcasts are a great thing in a lot of ways. I think that getting to hear long conversations from people is a way for us to understand each other way more than random sound bites and stuff. The other side of it, though, is that you can feel really intimate with an idea or a person that isn't really your friend. So you can make these other friends that are literally in your head every night. And it's just an unusual thing. I would also say there's something interesting about podcasts that we all listen at different times. And it is a very disconnected thing in a way, that we're not all listening to the radio or all at a club where a DJ is playing something. Everyone listens to things at different times, which is also one of the themes of the movie, that you can have a relationship in retrospect or on your own calendar, and the good and the bad of that. I listen to some of the true crime podcasts, not too many, but there's one called Serial and one called S-Town that really made me think, oh, that's what my character wants to make. That's what he wants to pursue. I interviewed some people who make podcasts, and they said that a secret ingredient to a podcast is leaving it unresolved, making the listener wonder what really happened. And that becomes a real temptation for my character. Does he make the perfect podcast that never solves this murder, or does he actually solve it for personal reasons? I wanted my character to not realize what he was missing in his life. He thinks his life is pretty good. He's hanging out at Soho House with John Mayer, hitting on girls, you know. He has a pretty good journalism career. But you also see that he's kind of lonely and a little incomplete, more shallow than he might really be inside. And I needed to show, well, what is a person like that, or a person like me, missing without realizing it? And that really is family. And so when this family thought that he was essentially an in-law and treated him as though he were part of the family, he's kind of taken aback emotionally and roped into it. And I thought, well, what a wonderful thing to explore, especially these days when we don't have enough of that. We're listening to podcasts instead of to each other. We're communicating over text, and we don't have those strong family units in many cases. So that to me was a really exciting theme, and I think a real source of warmth in the movie. I think humor is important in everything. I don't think anything is funny enough. And I say that more for dramas than for comedies. In real life, things are funny all the time. And if you're not laughing at things, I think you're not really feeling them and you're not really taking them in. There is so much anger and so much distrust when we meet people and look at things that we don't understand or feel comfortable with. And the idea that you can actually laugh together about some of those differences is such a relief and makes people feel so good and really makes people understand each other. This is a movie in some ways about the truth, finding the truth, what is the truth, and our willingness to listen to other people in trying to figure out what that truth is. So this movie starts with people on very different pages. Someone who believes that there is a murder because he feels it in his gut, and someone who believes there's not because he sees no factual evidence as a reason to believe that. So it really is a movie in many ways about intuition versus evidence and how those two can work together. I wanted to direct this movie because I saw the tone, I saw the movie in my head, and I knew that it was hard to describe. It's funny, but it's funny in a way that could really happen and is also suspenseful in a way that's not a joke, and it's dramatic in a way that is also part of the comedy and the suspense and the misunderstanding. And it's a Texas movie, but it's a New York movie. You know, all of the, when I described it to people, I realized I really had to show it to them. And working with these actors, it was incredible because it felt like I brought them into this crazy vision, and each one of them got it in their own way. So what you see on screen is really this symphony of people who jumped on board for this crazy synthesis of tones. So directing was really about making sure the audience saw the tone that I had in my mind. I would love audiences to come away from this movie feeling good, feeling that they not only laughed and followed a mystery, but had some emotional connection to these characters. I love these characters. Every single person in this movie, with all of their flaws, is a full-dimensional person, thanks to these actors. And I would love people to leave the movie feeling that they know all of these people and they would like them if they ran into them in real life. I think the fun of seeing this movie in a theater is it's kind of a summer popcorn movie called Vengeance in, you know, in widescreen, bright blue sky, Texas landscape. And that's the kind of thing I think it's fun to see in a theater. And with a comedy, it's always fun to see it with other people. And same with a mystery, because you're all kind of learning the facts at the same time.